Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity leaders and experts about industry trends, new technologies, and what you need to know about the future of satellite mobile technologies. I'm your host, Lisa Dreer, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, Steve Richeson. He is with Mission Microwave, and he is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Mission Microwave. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. It's great to be here. Always excited for the MUSA events.
Yeah,
Or
thanks so much for
MUs.
making time. We're just on the cusp of satellite, so I know everybody's really busy. And maybe we can start by having you just give a little bit of background on yourself and Mission Microwave.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're getting ready for the show. I put a picture on my green screen of our trade show booth. It'll look a lot like that this year, too. So getting ready for the excitement of it. Well, Mission Microwave makes solid state amplifiers, which is, well, I've got one here, right? We make these round amplifiers. Anyway,
Yeah,
they're
I have something
recognizably
similar on
round.
my boat.
You may. They These RF components and amplifiers, right, are on a typical SATCOM terminal. They're a very high value component on that terminal. Our customers are the terminal manufacturers, right? So ground terminals, whether they're gateways or in the mobility business, of course, they're on everything from boats, helicopters, portable ground terminals, you name it. But that RF component tends to be one of the higher cost items in the bill of material of that terminal, and there's a great deal of unique expertise that goes into RF design electronics. So the terminal manufacturers typically don't do that themselves and rely on us. So where we fit on the industry value chain is actually pretty low as a provider of a high value component that goes onto a SATCOM terminal. But because it's such a critical part of that terminal, it actually ends up being a differentiator of that terminal, right? Think of it like, the processor in your laptop, right? You have an AMD or you have an Intel inside, right? Which one do you want?
Right.
And people have preferences, right? So, the mission products are in the best terminals, and that's what's so exciting about the business, because we do our part. We focus on it. We do that really well, and we're proud of it. But what is very cool is to see what our customers do with these products to make even more exciting terminals that actually have, more. There's more utility in a terminal that can do cool stuff. It can be bolted onto a helicopter, and we're an enabler of that, which is really exciting. It doesn't look like much from the outside, and I try to explain it to my kids, and it's like, you know, I make a component that they didn't even know existed, right? Because it's down inside these terminals, but it's critical, right? It's like
Right.
microprocessors. Nobody really cared about them until they became important, to which one you were using to differentiate your product. So we make that part, right? My background with the company, joined just about 5 years ago. It'll be 5 years in September. And the company has been growing really rapidly, right? Because our customers trusted the team. The team has been in the industry for years, had been with some other companies, and customers really trusted that team. We allowed them to do some innovations, and the market uptake has been just phenomenal. Things typically move pretty slowly in the satellite industry, and in 5 years here we've tripled twice at least, right? Which tripling twice is nine, not six, right? So
Yeah.
that's it's for the engineers versus the accountants, right? Engineers know that's nine. Accountants think maybe six. No. So yeah, that's who we are. We make the RF components that go into all the best satellite terminals, all the cool kids uses, and and like people in our industry tend to stay around in our industry a long time. I've been doing it for a long time. My origin story in the satellite industry is I started out working. I was doing some satellite stuff for Schlumberger out in the oil field in the late '80s. Early introduction of a service called LogNet, and nobody remembers, but the oil industry didn't do real well in the late '80s, And so I went to a Georgia Tech alumni career fair, and I ran into this guy named Jim Oliver, and who was recruiting field engineers for his company, Radiation Systems at the time. And of course, Jim Oliver later founded AVL.
Yeah.
So that's my satellite communications origin story. Everybody needs an origin story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. So let's kind of jump into things. I wanted to talk to you about kind of future of satellite mobile communications. And one of the things that I wanted to get your perspective on is what you feel the most important role is that the satellite industry has to play in that future of mobile connectivity.
It's a great question, Lisa. I mean, mobile and fixed, right? I mean, more and more we see mobile, and the difference between mobile and fixed, because these stations tend to be very transportable, is becoming less critical, right? Satellite comms, you know, works as part of the portfolio of communication solutions, right? Our tactical customers are a good example. PACE, you know, primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency communications. And in certain applications, satellite's great as a primary application, right? I mean, if you're on an airplane over the North Atlantic, there's not a whole lot of other choices other than satellite comms for anything at high speed. And on the other end of the continuum, the emergency comms, you know, satellite is great as instant infrastructure, right? When the existing comms are just totally gone, or you need a separate network to drop as an overlay, or for security reasons, or everything else is gone, emergency comms. So satellite tends to exist at either end of those continuums and do either well. On the downside of it, though, is that, you know, in the choices of connectivity, right? Fiber, terrestrial, cellular communications, and now we're going to have different types of satellite communications as well, you know, LEO versus GEO. Mm-hmm. Satellite comms still kind of comes in last on that list, right? And it's sort of always pushed, right? I mean, you put in satellite, but then 5 years later, there's a cellular network covering that area. Mm-hmm. So the challenge for SATCOM is to find the places where it does really well and excel in those areas. And it's kind of always done that. It's not that big, though, right? The satellite industry, well, the scary thing about it is it's not that big. So growth is really hard to find in the satellite industry because it's kind of small, right? I mean, you look at telecoms, global telecoms, right? And if you did a pie chart and you had this pie chart that was divided up, and you took the section called other and you look down in it, you'd find satellite.
Okay, so that actually brings up a good point, which is there's been a lot of talk in the satellite industry, especially recently, about standards. So moving away from proprietary networks and solutions and moving more toward a standards-based set of solutions. What's your perspective on that? Do you think that opens up a broader market for the satellite industry?
You know, standards are great, right? Because as a manufacturer, you need standards because you need to know what to build, right? So, and it'll be the right thing for the customer. So everybody loves standards. You know, in my career, I was fortunate enough to see some standards evolve, like the MPEG video standards and things like that, right? And they became critical into how you could scale up as a manufacturer and be able to take the risk of developing a product and hope you have a market for it, right? Mm-hmm. Proprietary solutions don't work very well for that. A lot of the conversations in our industry around standards are around trying to get to cost reduction. And those are the same things, right? If manufacturers know what to build, they can scale up. They can invest, they can take risks, they can take the cost out of things. So we continually see standards, right? I mean, a big one in the mobile communications business is, you know, what's called Open BMIP, right? Which is, mm-hmm. It's really technical, of course, right? But it's, you know, it's a standard. I mean, I joke that it's a standard that starts with the word open, which, you know, could lead to a few problems, right?
Sure.
Because you generally want to lock these things down. So standards are critical. We see, you know, more trends towards standards in the business I'm in. on the RF side, right, there's talk about standards in the interfaces between modems and the RF component, right? And there are standards today for that, and they're going to continue to evolve. We're led by our customers in that.
Hmm.
That sure, standards are important. Do they lead to what end users often want standards to lead to interoperability, right? Which is it's kind of a separate challenge. And some of the challenges around interoperability are really based on the way the market's structured. I mean, if I'm a satellite operator who signs you up as a customer to use my network, I really have no interest in making it easy for you to switch to another satellite network. Right?
Sure.
But still, the standards do drive costs down. Again, just from the manufacturer's view, we like standards.
Right.
And there's the industry invests in those standards. We work closely with our customers to understand what standards are influencing them. It's pretty easy for us, right? We listen to our customers about what's important.
Right. Okay. So you were talking, I think, in our opener a little bit about how things generally don't move very fast in the satellite industry, but I would argue that we're seeing some of the greatest shifts ever right now, and they're happening pretty quickly, especially with respect to the commercialization of space. How do you feel that those changes will benefit the users of satellite comms?
Well, they'll have more choice, and um, that's that's viewed as a benefit, right? I would take exception to how things appear to move faster than they do, right? I mean, the overnight successes in our industry, they were in the back aisles of the satellite show for 10 years before you ever heard of them. Okay,
True, true.
they were kicking around back there and said, "Oh yeah, I remember those guys," and then they become famous. It's an overnight success. So it does. I'm going to stick with my view that it does move slowly, and that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get to the second part of your
Oh, right.
question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, frame that for me again, if you would.
Well, just kind of this idea that the commercialization of space and how that is changing and I guess opening up opportunities as well as what does it mean for users that this is kind of this industry is
Yeah.
kind of expanding and yeah.
It in some ways it makes it harder for them, right? Because I was talking at the Pacific Telecommunications Conference. I was talking to an engineer and who was actually from Tonga, and they had the big disruptions and all actually during that conference, and his hope was that there was going to be this one great cover everything solution, and he would have to do less work about tying together multiple solutions. And unfortunately, this explosion of different choices actually gets worse for him, right? Because now he has more choices. Okay, he had fiber, terrestrial wireless, cellular architectures, satellite. Now he's got a couple of flavors, at least maybe 3 or 5 of satellite to choose from, and that's great. Choice is good, but remember, telecom systems always use multiple solutions, right? And so he's got to
Mhm.
figure out how all these things work together as well, going up the stack. So actually, his job got a lot harder. I mean, it's positive and it has more choices, can deliver different tiers of service, do all these wonderful things. But it was funny because he was hoping that it was going to get easier in terms
Right.
of I just have this one thing and it'll solve all my problems. Well, it doesn't really turn out that way. So these are all positive things. I love to see the new stuff that's coming out. And it does seem like it's coming out more quickly, right? We've got LEO networks that are live. They're real, right?
Yeah.
They're out there. Um,
Finally, I think we
yeah,
thought
finally.
maybe 2016 that would happen and well, so a
Well,
few
okay, so it
years
took
later.
longer. No surprise there.
Yeah.
It took longer, but there's still a lot of challenges, right? Are they commercially viable? Are they sustainable? where do they fit in for any given application? Where do they fit in that primary, alternative, contingent, emergency communications hierarchy, right? For any given user, it's going to take a while to figure all that out. Not all of them will make it. So some of the business plans are, kind of sketchy right now, right? Because they're serving kind of markets that are served by other things. But it is, what's not to like? It's wicked cool technology. There's lots of rockets being launched. Sure, it's great fun. And we're excited. We make a component that goes into the terminals that supports, GEO, LEO, MEO architectures, all of them. Some very cool stuff that our customers do, right? We do cool stuff. Our customers do such amazing things with these things. And it is so fun to work with some of the best brains in the industry who are solving these problems, because these LEO and MEO networks are really complex. And the issues that they come up with that they have to solve are not the issues that anybody can come up with on a whiteboard. They're really detailed issues. And it's a lot of fun working with those customers to come up with their solutions. And the harder the problem, the better, right? We've got a great team of experienced people, so we can solve the hard problems, and that's what helps us win out in the market, right? If this stuff were easy, everybody would do it.
Got it. So as a user of satellite communications, and we're talking business users or government users, what are some of the criteria that users should be looking at as they're implementing solutions, SATCOM solutions?
I'd say, reliability and sustainability. Either, again, satellite fits at one end of that continuum. It's probably your primary one because you don't have anything else, or it's an emergency one, so it really needs to work when you do need it. So reliability and sustainability, is it going to be there? And that's part of the reason why our industry, when we say it moves slowly, it's because customers have to develop a lot of confidence with the solution before they put it at either end of that spectrum, right? As a primary comms or an emergency comms. You have to have a lot of confidence in it. And look, the ingredient that builds confidence is, who else is being successful with it? Who's using it successfully? If I can cite, top tier end users, that makes me feel comfortable with it. And the other ingredient is time. And, unfortunately, money's a really poor substitute for time. Sometimes time is just time. And so it's happening. The good news is the traction's there. These things are established. And it's happening. Just, don't get too excited. Give them time. Let them mature. Because where it fits in the whole hierarchy is probably going to look different than it looks today. And it's going to look a lot different than it looked in those great investor PowerPoints with the videos with the cool soundtracks, right? It'll look different. But look, the technology's here. It's not going away. I think it's going to take, in 3 to 5 years to figure that out. And when I say 3 to 5, I mean 9.
Of course. So talking about these new technologies, what are some of these new technologies that users need to be aware of, and how can they get smart on them?
They can get smart by, paying attention to things like this, like, what your group does, right? And, some of the new technologies, the technology's just a way to implementation. Some of the new applications, right? We see part of what we've been able to enable by making, better, faster solutions, smaller, high power amplifiers, which used to be really big. We're making them much smaller, so they can be on things like small airborne platforms and things for helicopters and things like that. So the new applications, I'm really excited about the growth you see in things on helicopters, right? That doesn't sound all that sexy, but it is new, right? People have been working on that problem for years, and again, growth segments within satellite are hard to come by. So when you find something, you can say, how many terminals do we sell for helicopters 3 years ago? Count on your thumbs, right? And how many are we going to sell in 3 or 5 years? And I really mean 3 or 5 years. It'll be tens of thousands.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty exciting. And those kind of areas of real growth, right? Not shifting things around from one pigeonhole to the other, but real growth are pretty hard to come by in our niche of the market. So those kind of applications are what users need to be watching. You know, whether that's implemented on a LEO, GEO, or MEO, I mean, really, I don't know that that's so important, right? Or is it implemented on a 5G network that is somehow backhauled over LEO, GEO,
Hmm.
or MEO, right? I mean, that's good for us too in the satellite industry, right? So
Right.
the applications are what matters. The technology, end users don't care, right? They don't
Right.
even
It
know.
just needs to work.
End users don't even know, you know, the thing that I know all the differentiators about, and I work with my customers to understand, you know, what they need. They don't even know this thing exists, right? A block up converter. What the hell is that? I mean, they don't even know it exists. They don't care. They're
Right.
talking about the application. You know,
Uh-huh.
I can get video on a helicopter and from a helicopter. You know, that's pretty cool.
It is really cool. It is really cool. Well, great. Steve, I want to thank you so much for making time today to share your perspectives on the future of satellite mobile communications, and really hope to have you back again soon.
Well, we'll see you at the satellite show for sure. So
Indeed.
thanks so much, Lisa.
Absolutely. And I just do want to take a moment to thank the Mobile Satellite Users Association for hosting these sessions. To learn more about the Mobile Satellite Users Association, or MSUA, you can go ahead and visit msua.org and learn all about our weekly newsletter and our webcasts like these, as well as upcoming events and programs as well, and how to become a member. So please visit msua.org, and we'll see you next time on Game Changers Live.